Everyone is present except for Jerkins. Yep. Okay. Consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Boswell and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a Boswell member so requests. Item A, approve agenda as submitted. Item B, receive and place on file all notices pertaining to this meeting. Item C, receive and place on file all materials having any bearing on this meeting. And item D, approval of minutes of the regular meeting on January 6, 2025, as on file in the city clerk's office. Mr. McLean?
I move the items listed on the consent agenda be approved, accepted, and ratified as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? Passes.
Eddie's a yes.
Yep. 10?
10.
10. Okay. There are no public hearings or bids. We have one resolution tonight. It's resolution number 76, amending a portion of resolution number 71, namely section 11 thereof, amending the underwriter from Piper Sandler and Company to Northland Securities Incorporated.
I move the resolution number 76 be passed and adopted.
Second.
When we first passed the resolution for these bonds, we had Piper Sandler was the company we were working with. The gentleman we worked with, Jay Spearman, has left Piper Sandler. He went to Northland Securities, so we are asking to switch over to Northland Securities and have them issue the bonds for us. We are set to issue the bonds probably yet this week, with closing being in by the first week of March.
Discussion. Terry?
He didn't rattle any rates off to you, did he?
We recently got rated. The bond rating for both the City of Beatrice and for Boswell came back at a AA3 rating, which is a high quality grade bond. Last set of interest rates I saw were somewhere about, I have to look again, I think they're about 5% to start with. They kind of dip through the middle and then tick up again towards the end. I can get you those numbers
I was
off the
just
top of my
curious.
head here.
When I was looking at a couple of days ago, I just thought, do you have any ideas, or has he ever said to you where those bonds go?
He has not indicated that to me.
Yeah. What I mean by that is like to an individuals or some big corporation to a bond fund or whatever, because we have good quality bonds. It'd be nice if a lot of them went to individuals. That was all.
Any other discussion?
Hold on, if you give me just a second, I might have the numbers he's looking for.
Can't do it.
I know.
Could do it locally though. He doesn't want to screw with it now. How much work it takes.
No, I don't have anything else.
Because we tried one.
Okay. Your vote, please. And that passes 10-0. Okay. There are no ordinances. Anybody here for the public forum for Boswell? Seeing none. Discussion reports none, so adjournment.
I move the meeting be adjourned at 7:04 p.m.
Second.
All in favor? And that passes as well. Thank you. So we will now call the City Council meeting of February 3rd, 2025 in session. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, there's a copy of the Open Meetings Act posted on the wall. As far as roll call, we have all council members present. Consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests. Item A, approve agenda as submitted. Item B, receive and place on file all notices pertaining to this meeting. Item C, receive and place on file all materials having any bearing on this meeting. Item D, approval of minutes of regular meeting on January 20th, 2025, as on file in the city clerk's office. Item E, approval of the minutes of work session meeting on January 20th, 2025, as on file with the city clerk's office. Item F, approval of the minutes of the special meeting on January 29th, 2025, as on file in the city clerk's office. Item G, the approval of Treasurer's Report of Claims in the amount of $236,811.32. Item H, approval of Boswell Report of Claims in the amount of $4,435.99. Resolution number 7498, executing the Second Amendment to the farm lease between the city and Jared Bauman to amend said farm lease to reflect the reduced number of acres and amount of rent owed for Partial A. And item J, resolution number 7499, executing task order number 002 and any and all other documents necessary between the city and Speece Lewis, a Bauman company for engineering services related to conducting bridge inspections for the bridges located within the city for the 2025-2026 annual bridge inspections. Anybody want anything pulled off? Seeing none, Mr. McLean.
I move that the items listed on the consent agenda be approved, accepted, and ratified as presented.
Second.
Your vote, please. And that passes 8-0. Move on to public hearings and bids. We have a public hearing tonight for the purpose of considering the rezoning of real property legally described as lots 3 and 4, Block 5, Glenover, in addition to the city of Beatrice, Gage County, Nebraska, commonly known as 1705 Woodland Avenue, Beatrice, Nebraska 68310, parcel number 011652000, from R3 Urban Family Residential District to R4 Multiple Family Residential District.
Yes, so we received an application from the new owner at 1705 Woodland Avenue requesting that this particular property be rezoned from R3 to R4. So they have the intentions of building a fourplex at that location. Planning and zoning did meet tonight. They unanimously recommended approval of this zoning change. I know there's probably some questions regarding spot zoning and some of those other terms, so I'm going to let Taylor handle some of those legal issues.
All right, guys, so you've got a number of materials in front of you, and that's just to kind of help you guys follow along with me as I go through our research memo on what spot zoning is and what factors courts take into account when determining whether a spot zone is illegal. So questions here are, what is spot zoning? What factors do courts use to determine whether spot zoning is illegal? So we're looking here at a case called Smith v. City of Papillion. Still one of the preeminent case law cases on here that really lays out what a court is looking at. Essentially, the facts of this case was they had a big agricultural area that it was zoned agriculture. They wanted to rezone that to commercial for the construction of a Walmart on an approximately 75-acre property. The adjacent landowners challenged that. The district court denied the landowner's request to stop the rezone, and they appealed, which gets us to this case. So what the court says here in this case is that spot zoning generally refers to the singling out of a small parcel of land for use or uses classified differently from the surrounding area, primarily for the benefit of the owner of the property so zoned and to the detriment of the area and other owners therein. They state further that the validity of spot zoning depends on more than just the size of the spot, and spot zoning as such is not necessarily invalid, but its validity is determined based on the totality of the circumstances in each particular case. So this court cited another court where they outlined that a rezone or spot zone that is arbitrary and capricious would be considered an illegal spot zone. So I've got here definitions for you guys who don't speak lawyer like me and Tobias do. And as you can see, the main elements of that are a really quick and hasty decision that's made without any evidence or any real logical reasoning behind it. So here are the three factors that courts take into consideration in determining whether or not a rezone is arbitrary and capricious. One being a small parcel of land is singled out for special and privileged treatment. Two, the singling out is not in the public interest but serves only the interest of the landowner. And three, the action is not in accord with a comprehensive plan. So what I didn't provide you guys are the snippets of the comprehensive plan that I looked at today to kind of make this case as to whether or not I would believe this would be an illegal spot zone. So starting with 1, singled out for special and privileged treatment. I think we get beyond that hurdle because the definitions between R3 and R4 reference each other. The analogy I used in P&Z is that when you've got an ag parcel, you build a house on it, you can zone that piece as rural residential. It's completely surrounded by ag, but you still have a zone that's in there that would be a spot zone, but we're talking about whether or not it's going to be illegal. So R3 definition here for urban family residential. District is intended to provide for medium density residential neighborhoods with single-family characteristics while permitting latitude in the physical design of housing. It adopts both established and developing neighborhoods as well as transitional areas between single-family and multifamily neighborhoods. The regulations in this district are intended to minimize traffic congestion and to assure density that is consistent with the carrying capacity of the surrounding infrastructure. We'll move on to R4, which is multifamily residential. This district is intended to provide locations for a variety of housing types, including multifamily housing. The district integrates some appropriate non-residential uses in order to develop fully urban neighborhoods. So for those of you, if I was reading too fast, you can look through these highlighted sections and you realize they reference each other. So in this case, they're complementary. So in looking through our comprehensive plan, obviously they recognize a need for housing. They have a rating scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. And essentially 5 being the highest score would be identical to pre-existing land uses or totally compatible. So essentially R4 activities next to R4. Or you've got 4, second highest score, proposed use is basically compatible with the pre-existing adjacent use. Traffic from higher intensity uses should be directed away from lower intensity uses. Building elements and scale should be consistent with the surrounding development. I would argue we get past this first prong because R3 and R4 are so closely related, such that they reference each other in definition. And moving on to the second element. The singling out is not in the public interest, but serves only the interest of the landowner. Our comprehensive plan from 2001 identifies a housing need. Every housing study we've ever conducted at the city here states that we have a really big need for housing, particularly rental housing and affordable housing. I believe the city has a market interest in increasing our housing stock, and so I believe we get past that prong there. And again, the action is not in accord with a comprehensive plan. Tie that back to prong 2. I do believe that this is well within the parameters of our comprehensive plan, even though it was back in 2001. And just one last point to illustrate this. If you look at this map with the green kind of surrounding, this is our zoning map that was proposed for future uses in our comprehensive plan. All of the yellow, in case you guys can't see it, is proposed single-family residential. Now, the area we're looking at is just south of Ashland Avenue under the purple there for Glenover, and you'll see that that's all single-family residential. We know today that it's all zoned as R3, which you can see on our updated packet, which comes with the legend, just the different shades of green. The lime green, which is R3, is what it's zoned as currently today. And our comprehensive plan was so old in 2001 that it says that because it was so vacant in Glenover, we should really be pushing for manufactured homes and mobile homes to try and develop that area. Obviously, that's not the way it's been developed, so we're here at R3 asking for a rezone for R4 for the proposed development of a fourplex. The planning and zoning had a little bit of an issue as far as no guarantees as to what would be built there, but other than that, unanimous recommendation to approve by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Discussions? Dan?
Whether or not it is an illegal spot zone, I think it's a spot zone. R3 is everywhere. Just on the map that we were given, you see this one little yellow spot in a sea of green. So to me, it is a spot zone. And do we want that maybe it's been done other times, but do we want to continue to set that precedent? I want to offer maybe some alternatives, because I do think a fourplex on that property is appropriate. But I don't like the idea of just having one little bit of R4 there. So first, Mr. Juergens earlier said that in Lincoln, fourplexes are allowed in R3. So should we change our ordinance and say, in R3, we're okay with that density? Duplexes are allowed by right, correct? In R3? Yes. So would it be okay to go up to fourplexes? And by right, they could build that in R3. Then that wouldn't have to be rezoned. It would just be by right. So we could do that. We could just allow special use permits in R3 for these higher density. Right now, we can't do that. But then it would allow planning and zoning, not us here on the city council, but it would allow them to decide based on the plan given. So if somebody came with a fourplex, they'd look at that and say, yeah, fourplex is great there. But if somebody came with a 36-unit apartment complex, they probably would say no. And the last spot that I want to offer is to suggest that rather than just that parcel, that if we really do want to think about that area being good for higher density, that maybe it's more than just that parcel. Maybe it's a few blocks right there. There's definitely some property out there that could be redeveloped and look better. It is up against, a commercial zone. And most of the time, when you look at housing developments, a lot of times you will have kind of on the edges, you might have a higher density moving into a lower density. And it wouldn't be, R4 would be on the edge. It wouldn't be right smack in the middle of an R3. So those are my suggestions rather than kind of a spot zone on this one piece, this one parcel.
Other discussion?
Were there comments from neighbors at planning and zoning or to you?
No, we did not receive any comments, positive or negative, from any of the adjacent landowners, neither myself, city clerk, or community development office. I would just like to add a couple things, a couple bits of information regarding density here. You have less than a block west of this area, no less than 10 duplexes there. So as far as density, it's already pretty dense out there for R3. The other point being that if you look at our current map of the zoning, you can just look at shades. If you want to look at R4 just as something that's easy to catch the eye, which is the lightest green you can get, we've got several islands of R4 that are surrounded not only by R3, but in some cases all R2 or all R1. And so yeah, we do have a number of different sort of islands out there of R4 with mixed density residential uses.
I don't think any of us want to, stop the building of, of the fourplex. I think we're all in favor of that. But like with what Dana was saying, I think we need to look at really changing this so it does. R3 includes the fourplexes in it. Lincoln has that in there, and that would solve a lot of problems there with that. I know, the builder has said that he's going to build, and he's not going to sell it. But we've had this happen before, and it's nothing against him. Him and his partner could be killed tomorrow, and the land goes. And then if it's R4, they could build a 3-story, 12-unit apartment complex. With, I know there'd be some limitations or some deal, but with it being R3 and just using it as you putting a 3-plex and 4-plex into that, then we would solve that problem and stuff. And I guess my question would be, I'll ask you, guys here, if we do that, if we postpone it, how soon? What's the fastest that we could bring this back so he could get started?
Most likely, based upon the notice requirements that are necessary, you would make the March 3rd meeting. It would be a month.
Okay, so about 1 month.
Okay. Well, I know, he's got, he's got some things that could help him along with this process of, expenses and stuff on materials and things that he's looking at doing. Obviously, we don't want to stop him, from building, but I think as opposed to going to, having an R4 in these R3s, I'd just like to, postpone this, and get this out and change this ordinance so it will allow, fourplexes, threeplexes, and fourplexes in it. So I'd like to make a motion to postpone.
We're just
We're in a public hearing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're
Yeah.
anywhere near that.
Okay.
Yes.
First and foremost, it's none of our business what he's going to sell or what he's going to do with it. That's none of our city's business. That's his business and it's private enterprise. And secondly, is it legal or not? It's legal, correct?
Yes, it's my legal opinion here for you guys today that it would be a legal spot zone.
Okay. So why are we wanting to postpone something that's legal and can be done? I don't understand your thought process. What's to be gained by dragging this out, Dwayne? What do you gain by
not
it?
dragging it out.
It is too. It's dragging it out. We can pass it tonight, or we can wait another month.
Because
and
we
if the
ram-
lumber
we
pri-
ramrod things
excuse
through all the
me,
time.
Bob, do I have the floor?
Yes, you do.
As Kelly told me earlier today, we don't know what the lumber prices are going to do. We just put tariffs on Canada, and that's where most of our lumber comes from. So you expect him to wait when he's asking for something that's completely legal because you think we ought to talk about it again. And that's for all the wrong reasons, and we shouldn't be in the business of deciding that. And another one, Dana, I have the utmost respect for your brother. Utmost respect, and he's invested a ton of money in this community. You know what his first thing to me was when I was running against Bob for mayor? We got to move this stuff along. We are not supposed to wait. We need to get it going and get it going right now. We wait too long as a city. So there you have it.
Bob. I think Mike was first, but I want to speak too.
All right, Mike, and then we'll go to,
I was just, if we put fourplexes allowed in all R3, that's across the whole city, then do we want fourplexes in some of the residential areas over everywhere? That was my concern. That's something to really consider. That's opening it up across the whole city. I'd rather I know Dana and I talked, maybe after this, move on and take that whole block where there's fourplexes and maybe make that R4, or, what we need to do there. But I don't know if I want fourplexes across the whole city allowed anywhere, so just a concern.
Yeah, so just a few things. So I agree with Mike, and I don't want to, and I know Lincoln does it, but we have a little density, we have completely different density issues in Beatrice than they do in Lincoln, and I understand that. So, and in a lot of the places there, I think the reason that was changed from, to allow it into the threes is because you had in the core of Lincoln, they were changing old houses into multiple family, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 apartments in one building. Didn't change the footprint. So, and I think that was why. I could be wrong, but if memory serves, that was why it was done. So I don't have a problem if we change this block, or that I suggested the 2 blocks, because it butts up to the commercial properties to the north, and I think that fits into R4. I'd hate to see it go with a special use permit. That everybody has to apply for that, because the problem that arises is once you have to turn somebody away for a specific reason, they still get to say, well, you gave it to him. You gave it to him, but I didn't get it. Even though the complexities of it are different, it still is, you favored me over these 2 guys. So I would try to delve away from the special use permits, but I think this is okay because it's an allowable spot zone, and I think the one term that he provided to us is that if it was a detriment to the community, and this is not. So it's actually an addition to it. It makes the area more prosperous. So if it's not a detriment to it, then it's okay to have a spot zone. So I don't disagree. When I looked at this, I brought it up. The same thing. I said, But I would suggest that we stay away from special use permits, that we allow this tonight, that we don't delay it, because as we all know, we need to have that face fronting that we're we're ready for anybody to come here and build here and work here and do business here. And so I don't want to put it off, but I would suggest that down the road that we just change these 2 blocks to the R4. So there you go.
Before we come back, let's see about public first.
Okay. Thank
Anybody from the public? Okay, all right, Dana?
Whoa, wait a minute. Are you going to make a
sorry?
motion?
There's no motions.
There's no
It's just
motion, we're in a public
public
hearing.
Okay. What- Are you going to talk?
Yes.
I was, but if you would
Go-
like to go
for it.
first.
I'll wait for you.
I think, Ted, you kind of help support, though, when you say, then somebody else is going to come with a special use permit and say, why didn't you let me? I think we are opening ourselves up in the same way for this. That other people may have a lot in the middle of R3 and will come to us and say, hey, make this R4 because I want to do whatever. A fourplex, let's use a fourplex, because I think most of us are in agreement, at least, that the fourplex is a great idea. Gary, you actually also kind of supported what I was saying when you said it's his property, we can't tell him what to do. And if we change it to R4, exactly, it's his property then, and he can build whatever he can fit on that piece of property, he can build that big, and we would have nothing to say about it. So if he can build a 10-unit building there, he would be allowed to. So again, I'm not saying that that's necessarily wrong for that area. You know, for those 2 blocks or 3 blocks or however many, because there's definitely some redevelopment that would be great there. But I do think just eking out one little spot is a bad idea, and it has always been a bad idea. So that's all.
Terry?
I'm not even really sure if I need to do this, but I'm really in favor of doing both. All right, I definitely am in favor. I'll vote in favor of him doing that tonight. I just would want to analyze, if we're going to talk about a bigger area, then we need more time to look at that bigger area and make a decision, because there's a lot of nice houses up there. There's a lot all over that place. So we need to do that and take our time doing it. But I don't think I want to stand in the road of this guy doing this tonight.
I would agree that we should do some changes, but what's before us tonight is this issue. And I think we need to act on this issue with the standing that it takes.
Okay. All right. If this comes up for a vote tonight, there will be more time for discussion, but if I don't see anything from a public standpoint, Mr. McLean, let's close the hearing.
I move the public hearing be closed at 7:28 PM.
Second.
Your vote, please. And that passes 8-0. All right, going to move on to resolutions. Resolution number 7500, executing the agreement for professional services retaining JEO to update the city's ADA transition plan.
I move the resolution number 7500 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Okay,
So our ADA transition plan was written in 1995. It still has City Hall being in the city auditorium and not being in City Hall. So it's a little old, outdated. We were able to apply for an SS4A grant. We received $106,400 from that grant to update our ADA transition plan. We went out, we did RFQs, we came back, we ended up retaining JEO for their services. Their contract tonight is for $132,940, which is the same, it's the correct percentage breakout that you need for the grant itself. What JEO will do is they will look at all of the city buildings that where the public's allowed to go, make sure they're in compliance with ADA, make recommendations for what needs to be made, and then they'll look about a block out in each direction from those buildings, curb ramps, all those, and parking stalls, that kind of stuff is what they'll look in there. So that is the contract you have before you.
Do they actually get into like our parks and recreation type areas?
Some of the parks, yes. So I think if you look, I think Hannibal Park was listed, I think Chautauqua Park, some of those were listed for those types of facilities they would get into, look at bathrooms, playgrounds, that kind of stuff, yes.
any discussion needed else? If not, your vote, please. That passes 8-0. Resolution, we'll go on to item B, resolution number 7501, entered into the agreement between the city and Main Street Beatrice Incorporated to provide funding to Main Street Beatrice Incorporated as authorized by Nebraska Revised Statute 13-315.
I move the resolution number 7501 be passed and adopted.
Second.
So this is the Main Street funding agreement for the current fiscal year, so October 1st of '24 through September 30th of '25. It calls for $40,000, which is the same funding they had last year. Really about the only thing different is they get $10,000 per quarter. Last year, there's some different benchmarks they had to make in order to get their payments. This time, what we kind of is, well, we're going to do $10,000 per quarter and basically settle up at the end of the contract. So at the end of the contract, there's still some metrics in there. They have to have so many meetings, so many workshops. They have to update their website. They have to hold some certain community events. If they do those, they'll get all $40,000. If they don't, at the end of this, we'll settle up and figure out, is it 36 or 37,000, whatever the number should be at that point. But so there are still metrics they still have to meet, but it does help with their budgeting and gives them $10,000 each quarter.
Discussion? Seeing none, your vote, please. That passes 8-0. Okay, move on to ordinance. Ordinance amending the zoning map for the city of Beatrice, Nebraska by changing the zoning of partial number 011652000, commonly known as 1705 Woodland Avenue, Beatrice, Nebraska, 68310, from R3 Urban Family Residential District to R4 Multiple Family Residential District.
I move that said ordinance be given number 25-2, the title thereof be approved, the rules be suspended, and the said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
A motion to suspend the rules is not debatable, so your vote, please. And that passes 8-0. Okay. Ordinance number 25-2 by number only the first time, 25-2 the second, and 25-2 the third and final time.
I move that ordinance number 25-2 be passed and approved.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion that we haven't already had? Seeing none, your vote, please. And that passes 7-1. Okay. Move on to public forum. The first public forum is for a presentation of an item by the general public to the city council for consideration at a later date. No discussion or action will be taken by the city council at this time. Anyone here for the public forum? Okay. I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. I want to thank Terry for making another investment into the community. We certainly appreciate wanting to make this a place where we grow. So thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to discussion reports. We have one tonight. We have NGage quarterly report with Rachel. I believe Sam Nixon is with us from Jimmy John's. And Sam, just so you know, it now costs me more money because it's my wife's favorite restaurant.
All right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it, the way the response we've gotten.
So yes, she has unwich on order.
It had a good point. Could have had samples.
I know.
I know he moved us around.
Knew I was last on the agenda, I could have whipped it up quick.
You did that the first time.
I don't know.
Where was that?
Popcorn.
No.
No,
We had some meeting I was at, you did that.
Now you're getting that special use thing.
Now you know why we don't do that.
All
Okay,
right. Good evening, Mayor and councilmen and women. Again, Rachel Krackemeyer with NGage. And for the record, I have Sam Nixon, owner of Jimmy John's, here to talk to you all and share about his successes in his first couple weeks of being open.
Yeah, so I think there was, so I've been working on the Beatrice project for some time now, and some of you know what we were planning, and some don't. But it's all come to fruition now, and we still have a long way to go. But just generally speaking, with what the community has expressed to me here is with just open arms, a warm embrace with a lot of patience and gratitude. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who's, allowed me to come into this community. Rachel with NGage, and then we've had a few discussions here in the city council meeting, and you guys have supported that. So thank you very much. We were the #1 Jimmy John's in the nation for a strong week there with sales reporting. We came close to breaking a record in sales as well. On top of that, we broke some of my company records, and so I've got 6 restaurants, and I don't see that being broken anytime soon with some of the other places I may be interested in. And so, yeah, it's been very exciting. And I don't want to count my chickens before they roost, but what I've found in Beatrice is that if you go out and find the right type of business that suits your community, and you're fulfilling a general need in the community, then that entrepreneur or that businessman or woman can be embraced very welcomely and accepted, and can be very successful. So I really appreciate it. I think you've all been down there and seen the development, right? Still leasing out the South Bay, but we do have a couple tenants who are interested there, or potentially. So the project's off to a great start. Any feedback or any questions? I'm open for any and all.
Just want to thank you for investing in our community.
Yeah.
We got it worked out.
That's been awesome. So we've got 30 on staff, I believe. And I brought in probably three to the community that are, going to be full-time employees here and actively going to be in the community, engaged in, shopping here and staying here. So yeah, we've created some jobs here, and I think there's, a general need.
Yeah, very good.
You were even working the other day, my God.
Oh yeah, I work. I work all the time.
Nope. I just wanted to say welcome to, and I enjoyed working with you. We had some pretty interesting conversations between you and Lynn and I a few different times, but I appreciate everything that you did to keep going on that, because it could have fallen through a few times. So
Yeah.
appreciate what you did there.
And I had a moment where I was counseling a young manager, and a gentleman came up to me and spoke with me and gave me his business card. It was Lynn's son, and he said, I'd spent a lot of time in this area at this gas station, and I think it's really cool what you've done to it now, and gave me kind of a nice pat on the back for investing in here. So I thought that was really cool.
Yep.
Yeah. And I didn't know that Lynn had passed, and he told me that. Yeah. So yeah, big success story here. Hopefully we get some notoriety from national Jimmy John's, and they can exhibit Beatrice as a place that has seen some resounding success. I would love to see that, and if I do, shake it up with restaurant news or something like that, I'll definitely pass that along to you folks. Did anybody get a clipping of the newspaper though? I would really like that for my collection.
Somebody could.
Okay, good. Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a good article.
Sam, you made comment when somebody said, do you think you'll be able to get enough people to work there? And you said, you know what, we've done these before and we have no problem finding the right people. Obviously, the way you hit the ground, and with this much business in this short period of time, I've been very impressed the 2 times that I've been there, once in the driveway or drive-through and once in the regular, and you are good. They work hard and they're fast and they do a nice job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And my team thanks you all too. Without the community support, and I keep telling them, there's no guarantee here. We could have a really good start and then things can drop off and we have to cut hours and do our best to make the business survive. But the way that we're trending, it just doesn't seem that way. And so they're very pleased, because that means, more opportunity for us in a company. It means more opportunity for them to increase their wages, more hours for them to work as well. And so there's been a great group of core individuals who have really wanted to work, and I've been open to saying, hey, get as much overtime as you want, and so the first payroll was a large chunk, but it was, I needed that, I had to have that, if you come through the restaurant and you saw, how big it actually is and how many people we can cram back in there, I needed every single soul that came down and was helping us. So yeah, it was really cool. we had 2 meat slicers and a big 5-deck oven, so we're really putting out the volume, to be able to handle something like that. Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Anybody want to know anything?
We're glad you're here.
What's that?
We're glad you're here.
Oh yeah, thank you. Well, I live here. I have an apartment. I'm a regular at the laundromat. I have a full-time job at Jimmy John's. I shop at Walmart. I'm not divorced, I promise. Yeah, but good stuff, guys. I love it here. This is a great community, and all my other franchisee friends around the area are really impressed. I had a franchisee reach out to me from the Omaha area, and he's got about 50 stores, and he said, "Holy shit, how many people can come in there? You know what I mean? I didn't know Beatrice was that big." And I said, give the people what they want. They'll come. So, yeah, it's been good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Okay. And I'll just summarize everything Sam said from the economic development perspective of that's what we do and go to bat for every single day is working with entrepreneurs and business owners that want to site here in Beatrice and doing everything we can to make sure the deal gets done. And I just want to say from my seat right here that I am so proud of our community for rolling out such a welcome mat for Jimmy John's and for Sam and his team there. They did an incredible job, but way to go, Beatrice, and way to show them the love. That's very exciting numbers and stats for him and his team in his first couple of weeks. Okay, transitioning to the quarterly report that I provided you all, I'm going to kind of stick to the summary on the inside front page. And just kind of highlight a few things that were done during the second quarter, which for reference, that would be October through December of 24. We, as a board, discussed looking at additional land for industrial development throughout the county. So a couple other things that you'll see bullet pointed here is we did some advertising on some of our industrial sites that we already have currently here that we're marketing, and we're generating quite a few leads actually. We did an advertisement in Site Selection Magazine, which you all should have received a copy back in November. That one is generating leads from out of state as well. So we're excited to explore those and see how those move forward. In addition to that, we are working with GSLI, which is Global Site Location Industries. They are a site selection company that operates out of Texas, and we've actually already, on here to date, we had 1 active lead from that organization. We actually now have 4. I just received 3 last week that we will begin to explore. So then with that, it just further solidifies that we have a need to go out and look at additional industrial sites throughout the county. So we're focusing in a few different areas of the county that might be prime for that type of development. The board voted, and we will be using Olson to do that study for us. So we're looking to have the kickoff meeting for that, hopefully in the next coming weeks. In addition to those activities, we're continuing to work on workforce development and talent pipeline building, working directly with employers, high schools, and connecting them to career opportunities, whether, again, it's job shadowing, internships, school to work, those types of things. And then we are, the next big thing that we're really working on aside from the annual meeting and banquet is the City of Beatrice has what's called the Economic Development Certified Community Certification. So that is actually sponsored through or by the Nebraska diplomats, and the Department of Economic Development with the state is the one that awards those certifications. And it's all about preparedness for economic development, the desire to grow, and putting all of the pieces in place needed to do good economic development. So that's strategic planning, business recruitment and expansion, visit, summary, and framework for how those are identified and delivered in the community. Just for reference, throughout the state of Nebraska, I pulled this off of their website just last week to make sure it was accurate. There are 37 other communities in the state that have this designation. And it is something that when we respond for project RFPs, that's something we put in there. So it shows companies that we have put these metrics in place and these plans in place to help recruit people in. So that's due the end of March, so we are all hands on deck for that. And the last application, it's a 5-year certification process or time frame, and that document was nearly 300 pages long. So that's what we're working on through the end of March, so pray that I come out alive on the other side. With that, we're of course still working on several other recruitment projects that we've been for a couple years now. So additional efforts to hopefully close on those and seal the deal. With that, I will take any questions.
Questions for Rachel?
Maybe more of a comment than a question, I guess, Rach. When I was there, when I was on the board, we at least initially established, like once every 6 months or something, we'd go into an executive session and bring the entire city council a little closer to some of these projects you're working on, so they know a little bit more about them. And as long as it's okay with Bob, I at least would like to see that once every 6 months or so, especially when we have new people here that haven't heard anything really about it unless they've gone down and talked to you personally. So I'd appreciate if you'd bring that, you and Bob would talk about that and
Yep,
keep that going.
Any other questions for Rachel? We're gonna let you off easy.
All right,
With that, thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay. That brings us down to the next regular city council meeting will be Tuesday, February 18th at 2025 at 7 p.m. right here in the BPS Administration Building Room. There may or may not be a work session on the 18th. So with that, Mr. McLean,
I move the meeting be adjourned at 7:48 p.m.
Second.
your vote, please. That passes 8-0. Thank you very much, and everybody have a good night.
Meeting on the 18th, 17th.